Today, I'm going to show you how to create a load balancer in GCP. It turns out to be not so simple. I thought this would take only a few minutes, a couple of steps, we're done. Turns out it's not that simple. So I'm going to show you all the steps on how to do this. There are about 7 or 8 steps involved. But first, to do this, we need a disk image that we're going to use as our base image for creating the virtual machines that we're going to need that will live behind the load balancer so that they can be spun up as needed. So let's get started. The first thing we want to, there are some of the steps that involved here are, we're first going to create a normal VM. Then we're going to turn that VM into an Apache Web Server. Then we're going to make a disk out of that, image out of that, so that that can be used as our base image. From there, it's actually a little easier. We just create an instant template because we need that for creating an instant group. We need that to create load balancer, and that's where the GCP complications come in, and that's what surprised me the most when I was doing this myself. And then we're going to do a real quick test to make sure that it's all working, and then we'll be done. The first step, we're going to go log on to our console. We're going to go to GCE and actually create a simple virtual machine. I'm going to click on create instance. We're going to give it a name. We don't need any labels or anything like that. Take all the defaults. For this one, it doesn't even matter if we allow traffic or not, because it's going to be stopped, that you will see in a minute. So we're going to create the virtual machines, one machine. It takes about 15-20 seconds to come up all the way. When it's done, we'll be able to SSH to this machine and turn that into a Apache Web Server, which it is not right now. Let's refresh. Okay, there it is. Now we can SSH to that box. This too takes about 15 to 20 seconds to fully connect. While it's doing that, I'm going to copy the commands I'm going to run. These commands, by the way, are already documented in Google's website, and the link is here. I'm going to share that in the video as well. But the commands that I want to run are all these commands all in one shot. So let's go back to the console. Get to the box. All these commands are doing is installing an Apache server, starting it up, changing the default index HTML page to say something customizable, and then it's going to check that locally it works. So right now it's installing. It's actually done. So it's running, the web service is running, as you can see here. The last thing it did is it did a curl command, and you can see the image, the actual page now says something customized like Mamun's web server. We will no longer need this machine, access to the machine, so we're going to log out of that. We're going to stop this machine because if we don't stop it, we cannot make an image out of the disk that it's using. So we're going to stop that instance. That takes almost no time. Then we're going to go to our disks. Because the machine is stopped, not deleted, the disk is still active, or at least present. So now we're going to make an image out of that. And give that a meaningful name. Apache Web Server. And we can take all the defaults, no issue there. The machine is still running, so let's go back to that. I've noticed in Google Cloud, same as AWS, there's always some delay. It's not always instantaneous. So as you see, this looks like it's already stopped. So let's go back and try that again. We're going to try and make an image out of the disk that is not being used right now. Create an image. Give it a meaningful name. All the defaults are just fine. We're doing all of this just so we have an image that we can use behind the load balancer whenever it spins up machine and using autoscale. So let me refresh that. And there's our image. So once we have the image ready to go, we're going to go to our next step, which is to create an instant template, which is what's needed to create an instant group, which is what's needed to create a load balancer. These steps are actually pretty simple, but the fact that you need them is kind of funny, but that's what it is. So we're just going to go to the instant templates. And there's a gotcha here that we need to remember. I'm going to give it a meaningful name. Here, they call it a disk, but really what it is an image. So we go to custom image. Sometimes there's a delay here as well. And as you can see, it's not, oh, there it is. There's the image that this time it was a little faster. There's the image that we created. We're going to use that as our base image for this template, for this blueprint. We must ensure that we allow HTTP traffic, because once you've done this, you cannot change, you cannot go back and change it while it's being used in the load balancer. So there's something I had to do twice last time because I forgot to check these boxes. Okay, now we have our instant template. We're going to go ahead and use that template to make an instant group. And I have, looks like my old one when I was doing the practice is still running. We're going to create, or at least still dying. We're going to give it we're going to create a whole new one. Let's give that a different name so that it doesn't conflict with the other one. Here, I think all the defaults are just fine. Auto scale means whenever we use this for load balancing, when a certain metrics hit, it will use the same template, same image to create a bunch of copies of the same machine whenever it needs to. And that's the whole kind of point of the load balancer. All right, let's create that. Okay, we missed something. We didn't choose a template. So that's the template we created just a minute ago. We're going to use that to create our instance group. And let's see how long that takes. Shouldn't take too long, maybe 20 seconds or so. Okay, that is created. Our next step is to actually create the load balancer. So we're going to go do that. For that, we're going to go to a different service. It's literally called load balancing. We go there. We create a load balancer. There are many kinds. Today, we're going to use a HTTP/HTTPS load balancer. In our case, it's going to be a regular HTTP because I wanted to show you how simple demo of how this is done. Here, this will be accessed from the internet. So we're going to choose that option. We're going to use a classic one because I'm not too sure what that's all about. So I'm going to not mess with that. We're going to continue. Here we have to create a backend service, and this is how you can see that in Google Cloud these things are somewhat more complicated than it needs to be. In AWS is a little bit simpler. I'm going to give it a name. And we can take the defaults HTTP because that's what we're doing. And we're going to use the instant group for that. Our port is 80. Rest, we can take the default. And I think it's going to complain I missed something. Go to issues. Health check. We did not define a health check. We're going to define a health check for the servers that are running. Whenever the health check fails, that server, that VM will be taken out of rotation and new VMs will be created if needed. So we're going to give this health check a name. It's all good. Default is fine. As long as port 80 is available, we're not doing a deep health check, application level health check. We're just doing layer 4. So we're good with that. And this time it should create the load balancer, or at least be okay with the backend definition. Let's create it, see what happens. Oh, we need to give it a name. Let's do that. It doesn't take too long, another 20 seconds or so. Should do the trick. Hopefully one more refresh. Still creating. Normally it doesn't take this long. Typically it's just about 20 seconds or so. Okay, it's created. Now what we want to make sure that the backend is working. It's not filling in health checks. So you can see it's saying 0 of 0 as if there is no backend. So we're going to go back and make sure. This happened last time too. We're going to make sure that the machine is running. And there's a new machine that's running. It is up and running. We can even SSH to the box and make sure that web server is running on that box. Just 2 more seconds here. Yeah, here we are. So we're just going to do, we can do many different ways. We can check this, but let's just say we can do curl localhost port 80. And as you can see, it came back with a valid response, what we expected. So it is running. The other way you can check is we can do a netstat -a and grep for listen to make sure that it's listening on port 80, which it is. So we no longer need to, we don't need to be logged onto the box anymore. Let's go back to the load balancer and see if he's realized the machine is actually running and is open on port 80. So here's the machine. And there's one of one. So what you can do now is we can check this address. And last time it took a minute as well over here. So let's do that. And it is not working. Let's try a different browser. I had the same problem last time. Okay, that is not cool. Let's try this again. That is the IP address. And the backend is up and running, one of one. Let's try curl, see what happens. More command line. If we curled to that. And was not found. That's kind of weird why it is not. So let's ping that box. It's pingable. Let's see if it's available on port 80. Easy 80 succeeded. So that's interesting. Let's curl again. Okay, that's better. So at this time, it should work. There it is. It took maybe a minute and a half to work. Let's make sure that it works on Chrome as well. There's that. So hopefully that was useful. I found this process in Google Cloud kind of clumsy and a bit of too many steps, and some of them are not actually obvious. So I hope this was useful to you, and we'll see you next time.